I am so happy with how this looks for the Rangers. We have a pitcher, Jack Leiter, and he is a dude.
And while I do think his hitting is worse than Derek Jeter, it's not that far off.
You're not mentioning 2006. You can mention the other people, not 2006.
Oh, just because I bought the best soap doesn't mean your room's going to be clean. It just leaves it to where I don't believe that the Canadians had a shot.
I really don't like the Clippers just kind of sending it in when they're like...
Hi, this is Kelly Forbes with the Dallas Stars, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week about the Bengals, which we've already done one this offseason, but second year in a row. What are the Bengals doing? And it's in relation to contracts, and I'll let Austin talk about it more, but I'm assuming it's about Shemar Stewart, even though you do have Trey Hendrickson still up in the air right now.
Well, yeah, they are trying to make it to where Shemar Stewart's contract can be voided in the case of off-the-field injuries or if something happens. And this is not a common thing for rookies. Rookies usually have some sort of guarantees to their deal. And just last year, the Bengals signed a player, and he got the guarantees, but now Shemar Stewart does not. And that's why I'm a little bit confused why the Bengals are doing this, one. And two, if you had character concerns, like if he was going to get arrested or something and you want to cut him for that, which under the most rookie contracts you still have to pay him, but if they're worried about that, why would you draft him where you drafted him? If there were character concern questions, why draft him where you draft him? So I don't think that's the issue. I think they are just trying to be cheap and trying to give themselves an out so that they can cut him down the line and save money. And also, there's obviously the Trey Hendrickson thing, and that adds to it. But really, this is about Shemar Stewart and why they don't care about defense at all. They just signed T. Higgins, who's been extremely injury-prone, to a long contract to make sure that he can stay with the team. So now you have Jamar Chase, you have Joe Burrow, you have, obviously, like I said, T. Higgins, and the offense is looking good, at least skill player-wise, and you still have some concerns about the O-line. But the defense, they don't care at all. I mean, they're not really committing to their first-round pick or their by far best defensive player last year. So I don't really understand what they're doing and why they're cheaping out on one side of the ball, while on the opposite side of the ball, they probably spent a fair amount on T. Higgins when he's an injury-prone player and a player that, again, could miss games this upcoming year.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. And especially with your draft point, if you had these concerns, why draft him that high? There were several other defensive guys they could have gone after, because it was a medium first round and not many defenders had gone. So you could have traded down. And to answer your point, how I view it is they're cheaping out on the defensive side of the ball, trying to get as much value as they can on that side, which if they somehow got Stewart to sign this contract, they would be getting great value in case something went down the line or just so they could save money. However, it doesn't make sense because it's a rookie deal. It's going to be the cheapest deal there. And you've spent so much money on the offense that you really can't afford to do this with your defensive line, especially with Trey Hendrickson, if you want to replace Hendrickson with Stewart. So that's kind of my thing. And this gets weird to where he would just go in the 2026 draft again.
But it's not even just that. It's the fact that the Bengals would lose this draft pick for nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So they would gain no value from this draft where they desperately need more defensive help. And not only did they not get the guy, but they also wasted a pick where if they picked anyone else. But you don't know necessarily if anyone else they would have picked, if they tried to give them the same deal, would have worked. Do you think the Bengals eventually freak out and decide to give them the deal? Or do you think that Shemar Stewart, and there's three options here. One, Shemar Stewart will agree to the deal that they made, that the Bengals want. Two, the Bengals will freak out and say, you know what, we're going to give you what you want because we need the draft pick. Or three, they don't figure it out. And Shemar Stewart and the Bengals don't come to an agreement, either because Shemar Stewart doesn't want to agree to any contract now with the Bengals because he's completely soured on them in an organization, or they just cannot agree on the guarantees. And Shemar Stewart goes in next year's draft, and I think he would still be a first-round pick next year. I really liked him. I had him in the first round. And even with a year off, I'm sure he'll still be training and working with other coaches, and he'll probably be around his former college guys, maybe working out with them a good bit. So I don't think he's going to be worse next year. And it's not a position, DN's a position that you continue to get better at, even when you're a little bit older. I mean, we've seen defensive ends and outside linebackers continue to play well up into their 30s. So I wouldn't think that his value would be lost. The major loss would be to the Bengals. What do you think happens here?
So my thing is, I don't see Stewart, and he shouldn't concede because, as you said, he could get value. I wonder if he would go as high in the first round. And then I just had a thought. I wonder if, I know it gets weird because they're a subsidized league, but could he go to the UFL next season?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think he could, because
that'd be after the NFL draft.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be able to.
But that was something to where like he's showing his what he can do on the field, even though it would it be at the NFL level. To me, if I'm the Bengals, I feel the Bengals cave. They realize, oh, this is a terrible idea. You apologize, you give him the contract. And it's really weird because it's usually just a matter of protocol of just getting a rookie quarterback signed or rookie. I see it with quarterbacks. It's like Cam Ward signed his deal, blah, blah, blah. It's usually the rookie's going to sign the deal and you're going to agree to it. So I see this getting resolved with the Bengals just realizing what they're doing and just kind of the backlash they're receiving. And they'll go, okay, we're giving them the deal. They do need to figure out their finances because this is a continuing problem. Because T. Higgins sat out, but that was more understandable because you had Jamar Chase and you had to pay him. You had already paid Joe Burrow. There are other guys you have to pay. But when you've demonstrated giving so much money to other guys, then it's weird just not doing it and being willing to sign deals or trading Trey Hendrickson, because that's another thing to where they're being very conservative with their money, which I understand because there's only so much money that can go around, but they just haven't figured it out. And I think they're getting a little bit too cheap. And this is the idea of being too cheap. So I think they go back and they pay Stewart.
Wouldn't some either outside forces or inside forces in the organization or outside the organization see this as kind of caving in, though, and make them look more weak in future negotiations?
I think it would, but I believe kind of with this getting out of what they were trying to do in the contract, it already puts the organization in a bad light because this is really weird to get.
But you look cheap already, and whether you cave in or not, you're still going to look cheap because you try to do it in the first place. But if you cave in, not only do you look cheap, but you look weak.
Okay, so you see them digging in? Yeah.
I think they dig in. I do. Because if you're going to, I think that, look, Shemar Stewart's obviously a terrible look, but if you're also not going to sign Trey Hendrickson, does it matter? They're committed, obviously, to what they're doing, and I don't think they're going to cave in. I think either Shemar Stewart wants to play this year, or he goes in next year's draft. Either Shemar Stewart caves in, or he goes in next year's draft. And I think Joe Burrow is the only reason why they may sign him if he calls out the Bengals, but I doubt he does that because I think that he is only really worried about the opposite side of the ball right now and was really happy about them signing T. Higgins, so he doesn't want to get onto the organization for something on the defensive side of the ball.
So kind of looking at that, how does it look at Stewart if he caves in and signs this deal?
I mean, he wants to play in the NFL, right? You don't know what's going to happen in the next year, and even though I do think he'll be a first-round pick next year, I don't think it'll look bad on him because he's not the one that is forcing them to go against precedent. The Bengals are the one that are going against precedent, making him sign a contract that most rookies never have signed. In any organization, including the Bengals. So I feel like him going against precedent, people would more feel bad about him and not see it as him being bad. Because sure, some people are mad about Shemar Stewart, but they shouldn't be. If you know the case details and you know what really is happening here, then it's the Bengals trying to be cheap and not Shemar Stewart asking for anything out of the ordinary. He wants the normal standard contract that everybody gets at his pick. I don't think that's a crazy ask. So if he does cave in, it's more about him being desperate to prove himself and be able to play and maybe be a free agent sooner, right? Because if you go another year, well, then your rookie deal is going to be longer, right? And you're not going to be paid for this year, right? You're not going to be a millionaire this year. So that could be something he's looking at. But if he could stay patient, I think that he would get a better contract next year, will still be a first-round pick, and go to an organization that actually wants to have him on the team.
Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if it does get to where he sits out a year. But I really think the Bengals cave in because Stewart, it makes most sense for him to wait a year because then he'll get that fully guaranteed money. Yes, he would be a millionaire now, but he wouldn't get the guaranteed money that would be guaranteed in a 4-year contract, which is kind of a huge thing in the NFL when you get that money, especially as a first round pick. But even if he's a second round pick, he gets guaranteed money and then could work towards a second contract. But it is difficult. We'll have to see what happens, and just really a weird situation. It reminds me of the Mets with Kumar Rocker, even though there are injury concerns, and it's not unprecedented for a pick to be unsigned in the MLB draft. But that high, it was shocking. So,
well, hundreds of players don't sign in the MLB, but that's because there's 20 rounds, right? And if you're a high schooler, is it better to get picked in the 20th round to get no guaranteed money and also be have to work your way up through the system a lot? And it's a lot longer process than going to college and learning and actually performing on a very top stage. I think that makes sense, but this is a lot more unprecedented because I don't remember the last time a first round pick in the MLB did not play. Because even high schoolers, I mean, we think of certain guys we personally know, and some guys, like if you're getting a first round, you're not going to get better than that. You know what I mean? Like you go to college to up your draft value. If you're a 17th pick, like Shemar Stewart, I believe was, it's not much higher value you can get, right? So I don't think most first or second round picks don't go back to college. Most, I would say 99%, even in the MLB, go to the minor leagues instead of going to college or another year of college. I don't remember the last time that happened. And
I think it was Kumar Rocker, because he was drafted 10 by the Mets.
But yes, you're correct. I remember that now. But that was more of a Shemar Stewart situation. But that's also because Kumar wanted a lot of money that maybe he wasn't necessarily deserving of. But you're right. That is the last person I remember. I mean, the only person before that I can remember that was a first or second round pick is Kyler Murray. But he went back to college to play football, so that doesn't really count. That doesn't count. I'm not going to count that. Yes, it's Kumar Rocker. I can't think of anybody else in the last 10 years that did that. First round pick.
Yeah, no, that's the only situation where I'm like, okay, it's like Kumar Rocker, but there were like more injuries compared to Stewart, which is just the NFL, which is just not
Rocker's
really.
had a lot of injuries, and the Mets were worried about paying him that amount of sum guaranteed without actually seeing how he was going to be. But you're right. That is a very comparable example.
Yeah, but no really comparable example with Stewart, and we'll have to keep an eye on what really happens and how this affects the Bengals if they cave in or if they don't, and then they're without a first-round pick, and I would say a big year for them. So, well, that is all we have. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.